Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the sliced internet cable lying on her lawn. The smooth plastic sheath had been cleanly severed, the inner wires exposed and sparking. Her heart raced, a surge of adrenaline coursing through her body. This had to be the work of the HOA. After months of fighting their outrageous fines and heavy-handed rules, she knew they would retaliate. But cutting her home's internet connection, that crossed a line. Quickly, she rushed inside to check the status. Sure enough, her laptop was blinking "No internet connection." Sarah's jaw tightened as she realized the implications. Her husband, Tom, ran a small web design business out of their home. Without internet, he couldn't access client files, respond to emails, or deliver critical work. This could cripple their entire livelihood. Furious, Sarah grabbed her car keys and sped to the HOA office. She burst through the door, eyes blazing. "Which one of you did this?" she demanded, holding up the severed cable. The HOA president, Mrs. Wilkins, met her gaze coolly. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Sarah. What seems to be the problem?" "The problem." Sarah's voice rose in pitch. "You know damn well what the problem is. You had your goons cut my internet line. Now my husband can't work, and we're going to lose clients." Mrs. Wilkins raised a hand, her expression feigning concern. "Now let's not jump to conclusions. I'm sure this is just a simple accident or technical issue. Why don't you call your provider?" Sarah slammed her palms on the desk, leaning in close. "Don't play dumb with me. I know this is retaliation for all the complaints I've filed against your ridiculous rules. Well, I'm not going to stand for it." The HOA president's eyes narrowed. "I would be careful, Sarah. Making wild accusations could be considered slander. Perhaps you should calm down, and we can discuss this rationally." Chest heaving, Sarah straightened up. "Rational? You want rational? Fine. I'm calling the police. This is sabotage, plain and simple. And I'm going to make sure every single person in this neighborhood knows what you've done." As Sarah turned to leave, Mrs. Wilkins called after her, "Remember, Sarah, we have rules here for a reason. I'd hate to see you get fined again, or worse." Sarah's grip tightened on the car door handle. The threat hung in the air, thick with unspoken implications. She knew the HOA held all the power in this neighborhood, and crossing them could have serious consequences. But she refused to be bullied any longer. Steeling her resolve, Sarah got in her car and sped home. She had to find a way to get her internet back online before Tom's business crumbled. Whatever it took, she was going to fight this, even if it meant an all-out war with the HOA. Back at the house, Sarah paced the living room, mind racing. She had to act fast, but what could she do? Calling the internet provider seemed pointless. They would likely just brush her off, claiming it was an internal issue. Suddenly, an idea struck. She grabbed her phone and scrolled through her contacts, landing on the number of her friend, Emily, who worked at the local cable company. "Emily, hey, it's Sarah. I need your help. It's an emergency." Her words tumbled out in a frantic rush. Emily's voice crackled through the line, concerned. "Whoa, slow down. What's going on?" "The HOA, they've cut my internet line. I think it's retaliation for all the complaints I've filed. Now Tom can't work, and we're in serious trouble." Sarah paused, taking a shaky breath. "Can you please send someone out to fix it? This is a matter of our livelihood here." There was a brief silence, then Emily sighed. "Okay, I understand. Let me see what I can do. But Sarah, you know I'm not supposed to give special treatment, even for friends." I know. Just please, anything you can do. I'm at the end of my rope here." Sarah gripped the phone tighter, her knuckles turning white. All right. I'll see what I can arrange. But you owe me one. Got it?" Emily's tone was serious, but Sarah could hear the underlying sympathy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this." Sarah felt a surge of relief, even if it was tinged with guilt for putting Emily in a difficult position. No problem. Just sit tight. I'll get someone out there as soon as possible. With that, Emily ended the call. Sarah slumped onto the couch, her adrenaline starting to subside. She knew she was taking a risk by involving Emily, but at this point, she didn't have a choice. The HOA had gone too far, and she was determined to fight back. Just then, the front door opened, and Tom strode in, brow furrowed. "Hey, what's going on?" "I just tried to log in, and the internet is down." "Did you call the provider?" Sarah quickly explained the situation, watching as Tom's expression shifted from confusion to outrage. "Those bastards!" he exclaimed, slamming his fist against the wall. "This is going to destroy my business. We can't let them get away with this." I know. Sarah reached out and squeezed his hand. "But I got a plan. I called my friend at the cable company, and she's sending someone to fix it." Tom's eyes widened. "You did what?" "Sarah, you know we can't get special treatment. That could get her in serious trouble." "I didn't have a choice, Tom. It's our livelihood on the line here." Sarah's gaze hardened with determination. "We have to do whatever it takes to get back online. I'm not going to let the HOA win." Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right. I trust you. But we need to be careful. This is war, and the HOA plays dirty." Sarah nodded, a fierce resolve settling in her chest. "I know, but I'm ready to fight. No more backing down." An hour later, a cable technician arrived at the Wilsons' door. Sarah greeted him nervously, hoping Emily's influence had secured his help. "Hi, I'm here to take a look at your internet issue," the technician said, his tone professional. "Where's the problem?" "Out back, the cable's been cut," Sarah explained, leading him around the side of the house. "Can you fix it?" The technician knelt down, examining the severed line. This looks intentional. Someone really did a number on this." He glanced up at Sarah. "Give me a few minutes. Let me see what I can do." Sarah hovered anxiously as the technician worked, splicing the cable back together. Finally, he stood, wiping his brow. "All right, that should do it. Try reconnecting your devices and see if the internet is back up." Sarah hurried inside, Tom watching eagerly as she powered on her laptop. After a few tense moments, the familiar connectivity icon appeared in the corner of the screen. "It's working." Sarah cried, relief flooding her features. She turned to the technician, who was packing up his tools. "Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out on short notice." The technician shrugged. "No problem, ma'am. Glad I could help." He paused, lowering his voice. "Just be careful, all right? Stuff like this, it tends to escalate. You might want to consider beefing up your security." Sarah nodded, swallowing hard. "I will, thank you." As the technician headed back to his truck, she closed the door, leaning against it with a weary sigh. Tom pulled her into a tight embrace. "You did it. You got us back online. I don't know how to thank you." "I'm just relieved we can get back to work," Sarah murmured, her voice muffled against his shirt. "But we have to be careful. The HOA isn't going to let this go." "Seriously." Tom released her, a concerned frown creasing his brow. "We need to figure out our next move. They've clearly declared war, and we can't let them push us around anymore." Sarah nodded, her expression hardening. "I'm done playing by their rules. It's time to fight fire with fire." Just then, her phone buzzed with a call from Emily. Answering quickly, she said, "Hey, did the technician get the internet back up?" "Yeah, he did. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it." Emily sighed. "Well, I'm glad I could help, but you know I had to pull some strings to get him out there. The higher-ups aren't happy about it." Sarah's heart sank. "Oh no, Emily, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do?" "Nah, Don't worry about it. Just be careful, okay? The HOA is not going to let this slide. You might want to watch your back. I will, I promise. Sarah's grip tightened on the phone. Thanks again, Emily. I owe you one. Yeah, just don't make a habit of it. Emily's tone was laced with concern. Take care, Sarah. As Sarah ended the call, Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We've got this, babe. Whatever the HOA throws at us, we'll be ready. Sarah nodded, her resolve hardening. You're right. It's time to fight back. This ends now. The next morning, Sarah and Tom gathered their evidence and headed straight to the police station. As they approached the front desk, Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Hi, we'd like to report a case of property damage and suspected sabotage, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. The officer behind the counter raised an eyebrow. Okay, can you tell me more about what happened? Sarah quickly explained the situation, showing the severed internet cable and recounting the confrontation with Mrs. Wilkins at the HOA office. I see. The officer frowned, jotting down notes. And you're sure the HOA is responsible for this? Absolutely, Sarah insisted. They've been harassing us for months over petty rule violations, and now they've gone too far. This is retaliation, plain and simple. The officer nodded, his expression turning sympathetic. I understand your frustration, ma'am. Unfortunately, without clear evidence, it's going to be difficult to prove the HOA's involvement. Do you have any witnesses or security footage? Sarah's heart sank. No, it happened on our property. But the HOA president threatened us, and my friend at the cable company said the damage looked intentional. The officer sighed. I know it's not what you want to hear, but without stronger proof, this is going to be a challenging case to pursue. My advice would be to document everything and try to resolve this through the HOA's own channels first. Tom stepped forward, his brow furrowed in frustration. So you're telling us we just have to sit back and let them get away with this? That's not good enough. The officer raised a placating hand. I understand your anger, sir, but taking matters into your own hands could land you in more trouble. The law requires a certain standard of evidence before we can intervene. Sarah squeezed Tom's arm, sensing his rising temper. Okay, officer, we understand. Thank you for your time. She turned to Tom as they exited the station. Well, that was a bust. Tom kicked at the sidewalk, his jaw clenched. Unbelievable. So we're just supposed to let the HOA bully us? I don't know. Sarah ran a hand through her hair, feeling the weight of their predicament. But the officer is right. We can't do anything reckless. We have to be smart about this. Tom sighed, his shoulders slumping. I know. It's just so frustrating. We're the ones who've been wronged, and yet we have to play by their rules. Sarah nodded, her expression grim. That's the way it is, unfortunately. But we can't give up. We have to find another way to fight back. As they approached their car, movement in the distance caught Sarah's eye. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. Tom, look. She pointed toward the HOA office, where a group of men were loading boxes into a van. Is that our internet equipment? Tom's eyes widened. Oh, hell no. They're not getting away with this. Without hesitation, he strode toward the office, Sarah hurrying to keep up. This time, they weren't taking no for an answer. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Tom shouted as he approached the group of men loading the van. The men paused, exchanging uneasy glances. One stepped forward, a self-assured smirk on his face. This doesn't concern you, sir. We're simply disposing of some faulty equipment. Tom's eyes narrowed. Faulty equipment. That's our internet hardware you're taking. The man shrugged. I'm afraid there's been a mistake. This equipment belongs to the HOA. Sarah stepped forward, her voice trembling with barely contained fury. You can't do this. That's our livelihood you're stealing. Give it back, right now. The man raised a hand, his expression hardening. I'm going to have to ask you both to step back. If you interfere with HOA business, we'll be forced to call the police. Tom clenched his fists, his body tense with the urge to lash out. The police? You're the ones committing a crime here. Sarah placed a restraining hand on Tom's arm. Tom, please. We can't afford to get arrested right now. Reluctantly, Tom backed down, his gaze burning with a mixture of rage and helplessness. The man smirked, gesturing to his companions. That's what I thought. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some important matters to attend to. As the van pulled away, Sarah and Tom could only watch, their hearts sinking. They had been so close to reclaiming their internet, only to have it snatched away again. Once the van had disappeared from sight, Sarah turned to Tom, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. What are we going to do? Without that equipment, your business is finished. We're going to lose everything. Tom pulled her into a tight embrace, his own voice thick with emotion. I don't know, Sarah. But I promise, we're not going down without a fight. They stood there for a moment, drawing strength from each other's presence. Finally, Tom released her, his expression hardening with determination. All right, here's what we're going to do. We need to document everything that just happened. Get photos, statements, anything we can use as evidence. Then we're going straight back to the police. Sarah nodded, wiping at her eyes. Okay, let's do it. We can't let the HOA get away with this. They hurried back to the station, recounting the latest incident in detail. The officer listened, his brow furrowed in concern. This is a serious escalation, he said, jotting down notes. We'll need to investigate further, but with the additional evidence, we may be able to build a stronger case. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by the weight of their situation. So what happens now? How long will it take to get our equipment back? The officer's expression turned sympathetic. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Recovering stolen property can be a lengthy legal process, and in the meantime, your business will be crippled. Tom's jaw tightened. We don't have time for a lengthy process. My livelihood is on the line here. The officer shook his head. I understand your frustration, but the law requires we follow proper procedures. All I can suggest is that you continue to document everything and stay vigilant. We'll do our best to assist you, but the ultimate resolution may still be out of our hands. Sarah and Tom left the station, their faces etched with worry and determination. They knew the fight with the HOA was far from over. Back at home, Sarah and Tom huddled around the kitchen table, poring over their options. Okay, so we have the police involved now, but it could still take ages to get our equipment back, Tom said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Sarah nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. And in the meantime, your business is at a standstill. We can't afford to just sit and wait. There has to be something else we can do, Tom muttered, his gaze fixed on the table. Something more proactive. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. What if we take this straight to the HOA? Demand they return our property and stop this harassment. Tom's expression darkened. You know they're not going to listen. They've made it clear they're not afraid to break the law to get their way. Then we'll make them listen, Sarah said, her voice steadying with resolve. We need to hit them where it hurts, their reputation and their pockets. Tom eyed her skeptically. What are you thinking? A media blitz, Sarah said, her words coming faster as the plan crystallized in her mind. We'll go to the local news, social media, anywhere we can to expose what the HOA is doing. Shame them into compliance. Tom's eyes widened. Sarah, that's actually a pretty good idea. If we can get enough public outrage, the HOA might be forced to back down. Exactly, Sarah said, her fingers drumming on the table. And we'll threaten to take legal action if they don't return our equipment and stop the harassment. Hit them with everything we've got. Tom leaned back, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. All right, let's do it. We've got nothing to lose at this point. They sprang into action, contacting local news outlets and drafting a statement detailing the HOA's misdeeds. Within hours, the story had begun to spread, and the HOA's office was inundated with angry calls and messages. Meanwhile, Sarah and Tom delivered a blistering letter to Mrs. Wilkins, the HOA president, demanding the immediate return of their internet equipment and an end to the harassment. They made it clear that failure to comply would result in a lawsuit and the continued public backlash. As the day wore on, the pressure on the HOA mounted. Mrs. Wilkins placed a frantic call to the Wilsons, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. This has gone too far, Sarah. You and your husband are causing a major disruption to this community. I demand you cease these attacks immediately. Sarah gripped the phone, her expression hardening. The only ones causing disruption are you and your cronies. Return our equipment, or we'll make sure the whole world knows what you've done. Mrs. Wilkins let out a frustrated huff. This is blackmail, pure and simple. We have rules in this neighborhood for a reason, and you've refused to comply. You've brought this on yourselves. Save it, Mrs. Wilkins, Sarah spat. Either you cooperate, or you can deal with the consequences. The choice is yours. The line went silent for a long, tense moment. Then, Mrs. Wilkins let out a resigned sigh. Fine. We'll have your equipment returned by tomorrow. But this isn't over, Sarah. Mark my words. Sarah felt a surge of triumph, but she knew the fight was far from won. Still, they had taken the first step in reclaiming their lives and their livelihood. The battle with the HOA was just beginning. True to Mrs. Wilkins' word, the next day a van from the HOA arrived at the Wilsons' home, the missing internet equipment loaded in the back. Sarah and Tom watched warily as the driver unloaded the boxes and carried them inside. Well, I'll be damned. Looks like your little media stunt worked, the driver muttered, eyeing them with a mixture of resentment and begrudging respect. Just make sure everything is in working order, Tom replied tersely, refusing to back down. Once the equipment was safely inside, Sarah and Tom quickly set about reconnecting the internet. Their hearts raced as they powered on the devices, holding their breath in anticipation. After a tense few minutes, Tom let out a triumphant whoop. It's back online. We're back in business. Sarah couldn't help but smile, the weight of the past few days lifting from her shoulders. Thank God. I was starting to think we'd never get it back. Tom pulled her into a tight embrace, his relief palpable. I can't believe we actually pulled it off. Guess we showed the HOA who's boss, huh? Sarah chuckled, though a hint of unease lingered. For now, at least. I have a feeling they're not going to let this go easily. As if on cue, Sarah's phone buzzed with an incoming call from Mrs. Wilkins. Steeling herself, she answered. Hello, Mrs. Wilkins. I trust you've returned our equipment as promised. Yes, it's all there, the HOA president responded, her tone clipped and irritated. But this little stunt of yours has caused no end of trouble for this community. I hope you realize the consequences you're about to face. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to back down. Consequences. All we wanted was our property returned and the harassment to stop. If you have a problem with that, take it up with your lawyer. Mrs. Wilkins let out an exasperated sigh. You really have no idea what you're up against, do you? This neighborhood is my domain, Sarah, and I don't take kindly to those who defy me. Mark my words, you and your husband are going to regret ever crossing the HOA. The line went dead, leaving Sarah with a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. She turned to Tom, her expression grave. We're not out of the woods yet. Mrs. Wilkins is furious, and she's not going to let this go. Tom's jaw tightened. Let her try something else. We're not backing down, not after what they've done. Sarah nodded, her resolve hardening. Exactly. We've come this far, and we're not going to let them bully us anymore. But we need to be prepared for whatever they throw at us next. In the days that followed, the Wilsons carefully monitored their situation, bracing for the HOA's retaliation. They continued to document every interaction, hoping to build an even stronger case against the organization. But the expected backlash never came. Instead, the HOA fell oddly silent, Mrs. Wilkins noticeably absent from the neighborhood. Sarah and Tom couldn't help but wonder if they had managed to intimidate the HOA into submission, at least for the time being. Still, they knew better than to let their guard down. The war with the HOA was far from over, and they had a feeling the worst was yet to come. As the weeks passed, Sarah and Tom settled back into their routine, cautiously optimistic that the HOA had backed off. The internet remained stable, and they were able to resume their work without further interruption. However, their relief was short-lived. One evening, as Sarah was preparing dinner, she heard a loud commotion outside. Peering out the window, she gasped in horror. The HOA had mobilized a small army of workers, and they were tearing down the Wilsons' carefully tended garden. Sarah rushed outside, her heart pounding. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she shouted, confronting the foreman overseeing the destruction. The man turned to her, his expression unreadable. "We're enforcing HOA regulations, ma'am. Your garden is in violation of the community guidelines." Sarah stared at him in disbelief. "Violation? This garden has been here for years, and you're just now deciding it's a problem." The foreman shrugged. "That's not my concern. The HOA has deemed it unacceptable, and it must be removed immediately." Sarah felt a surge of rage. "This is retaliation, pure and simple. You can't do this." The foreman's eyes narrowed. "I'm afraid I can, ma'am. If you interfere, you'll be in violation of HOA rules, and there will be consequences." Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but Tom's voice called out from behind her. "Sarah, what's going on?" She whirled around, her eyes pleading. "Tom, they're destroying our garden. We have to stop them." Tom's face darkened as he took in the scene. Without a word, he strode forward, positioning himself between the workers and the garden. "You're not touching a single plant," he growled, his stance resolute. The foreman's expression hardened. "Sir, I'm warning you. Step aside, or you'll be facing fines and potential legal action." Tom refused to budge. "I don't care about your threats. This is our property, and you have no right to destroy it." The workers hesitated, glancing uncertainly at the foreman. Sarah held her breath, praying that Tom's defiance would deter them. But the foreman's jaw tightened, and he gestured to his men. "Move him out of the way. We've got a job to do." As the workers surged forward, Sarah's heart raced. She couldn't stand by and watch them manhandle her husband. Rushing to his side, she planted herself firmly beside him, her eyes blazing with determination. "If you want to destroy our garden, you'll have to go through both of us." The workers paused, momentarily taken aback by the Wilsons' united front. The foreman scowled, his frustration evident. "This is your last warning. Stand down or face the consequences." Sarah and Tom exchanged a resolute glance, their fingers intertwining. They were not going to back down, no matter the cost. "We're not going anywhere," Tom declared, his voice unwavering. For a tense moment, the two sides faced off, the air thick with the promise of confrontation. Then, to the Wilsons' surprise, the foreman let out a resigned sigh. "All right. Have it your way." He turned to his crew. "Pack it out. We're done here." As the workers trudged back to their trucks, Sarah and Tom stared at each other in disbelief. They had won this round, but they knew the battle with the HOA was far from over. With a renewed sense of determination, they vowed to stand their ground, no matter what the future held.